I'm putting a spell on this movie to make sure it's good. Hey everyone, welcome to Prince the Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with the third part of our 2024 Halloween special, Let the Right One In. So I have an interesting history with this film. I have seen the remake. There's an American remake directed by Matt Reeves. Yes, the same Matt Reeves as Cloverfield and The Batman. And who, obviously is working on The Penguin, who worked on the Batman Caped Crusader series. That Matt Reeves. He did a remake of Let the Right One In called Let Me In. And that was the one I saw. I saw that once when it came out and have not seen it again, and honestly was not interested in seeing it again. And I came to know that it was a remake of this 2008 Swedish film, Let the Right One In, and I just never ended up getting around to seeing that. I don't remember a huge amount of Let Me In. I remember kind of the most basic premise of it, which I'm not going to get too much into here. Just in case someone may not know, I'm going to keep it kind of in the dark on this one. But yeah, Let Me In was the remake. This is the original, and this one is Swedish. So I haven't seen, I think, much of anything, if anything, Swedish in terms of shows, movies, etc. I think my only real exposure to anything Swedish is like, I don't know, PewDiePie. He's Swedish, right? I believe so. Gosh, now I have to look that up just to make sure. I don't want to sound like an idiot. I believe he's Swedish. Yeah, yeah. He's Swedish. I was correct. He's from Gothenburg, Sweden. Um, yeah. Okay. I wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure it wasn't like he wasn't from Finland or something close to that, because I've sometimes mixed that up before. And I think this YouTuber, The Click, I think he's from that area too. Um, but I'm not 100% on that one, to be fair. But that's like my only exposure to anything Swedish, so I have no idea what this is going to be like. Um, like I said, I don't remember a huge amount about the remake movie. I believe, and I'm not 100% sure about this either, but I believe I was pretty kind of ambivalent about it. Like, I didn't really have, like, strong feelings one way or the other. I didn't find it great. I didn't find it, like, terrible. Just kind of in the middle somewhere. Um, but yeah, I'm very curious to see what this is like, because this is another one of those horror movies that is really highly praised. We saw how that went last week. Um, I still can't believe that house was so well received and has such high critic scores and whatnot. Like, it's such a bad movie in every discernible way. But I mean, I guess it's subjective, but I don't understand how anyone can watch that movie and think this is good. Like whatever you like, I'm allowed to have my own opinions. But what are those opinions going to be on this film? Again, another one that's really highly praised. This one I feel is probably going to be more serious. Because of the almost nothing I remember about the original, I believe it had a serious tone. I don't think this one was trying to be like a comedy or anything, or even like much of a satire. Because you can be a satire without being a comedy. A lot of people don't understand that at all. Of course, a lot of people just don't understand satire. Not going to get into that entire issue here today. But yeah, I'm just curious to see if this one lives up to the hype. And exactly what we're going to get. I have high hopes. Let's see if they're met. We're just going to get into this, hope for the best, so let us get this going. Cutting in here real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions, with 2 on Wednesday. We have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. And we have gaming content over on the Princess of Gaming channel. We have Baldur's Gate 3 every single day, Horizon Forbidden West every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, Beyond Two Souls on Wednesdays and Sundays, and Poppy Playtime every Saturday. And don't forget to click that link in the description to follow it to today's reaction. I do redirect everything on the channel just due to copyright. And on top of that, don't forget to click the subscribe button to subscribe to the channel and the like button to help support. It means a lot, and I thank you so much for tuning in. That being said, let's get to today's reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. This is an exceptionally well-received film. Is award-winning, has received multiple awards. Is, you know, a film that got an American remake, again, directed by Matt Reeves, and is actually based off of a book, I found out. And there's one scene in the movie that confused me. And I thought it was going for something else, but upon doing a little bit of research, because I wanted to see what the fuck was going on with that, and I didn't want to just like go back and look at the scene again because awkwardness. There's the scene in the movie where Oscar spies on Ellie while she's changing, and it shows a shot of her lower region. And it made me extremely uncomfortable when that came up and happened, because it's like, you don't need to do this. This is not necessary. It's actually kind of gross. But he had a notable reaction that, for some reason, to me, it stayed in my mind because it didn't read as just embarrassment. It read as him being freaked out. And so that, even though, like, I didn't want to go back and watch it, and I didn't go back, because don't want to see that shit. I wanted to know, like, what the deal with that scene was. So I looked it up. And it's something that makes no sense if you're just watching the movie. It's something that the movie does not in any way explain. And, like, there's certain context clues that you can kind of interpret with that. And you can kind of, like, realize shit with. But you're probably not going to realize what the fuck you just, like, saw and everything, unless you've read the book beforehand or whatnot, because the book is explicit with it. In the scene, like, again, I'm not going to go back and try to confirm this by watching that again, because that's creepy and weird. But apparently what it showed there, and the reason why he was so, like, freaked out instead of just, like, embarrassed, is because there were castration scars. Ellie Ellie was born a boy. And uh, I, I shouldn't say that. That's bad wording. Ellie was Ellie is AMAB, assigned male at birth. That's more correct terminology. And the thing is, and through looking this up and reading everything, sorry for the lighting changes, weird shit going on with the lighting and everything, and my hand movements probably don't help adding shadows to certain points. So sorry if the lighting looks like it's just like flickering or whatever. Um, the problems with recording this late into things. But from what I'm reading, it's not intentionally supposed to be seen as like she's trans. Because in the book, it's very explicit that when Ellie was originally um, actually 12 years old, she was kidnapped, castrated, tortured, and turned into a vampire. And that's like, there's this entire backstory to it with horrific shit and everything. It's bad. It's really bad, the shit that happened to her. Again, from what I read, because I've never read the book, but from what I looked up and everything. And she chose to kind of adopt this almost feminine appearance. But in the book, it's like when she's stating like I'm not a girl, it's not meant to like, as I thought in this movie, like I'm thinking like, oh, she's talking about being a vampire and everything, not what you're thinking, kid. Um, but no, it actually was. Um, that scene makes a lot more sense with knowing the context here. But in the book, it's again a lot more explicit with things. As I'm reading here, um, after escaping, Ellie chose to adopt a female appearance and met. I'm going to mispronounce this, I'm sure, but Hakan, who was the father figure in the movie. Also, apparently in the book, he's a pedophile and is, not a good person. Um, so that definitely changed. This definitely made him a lot more likable, and even mentions here his relationship to Ellie in this version is very ambiguous as to what it's supposed to be like. Um, but yeah, Ellie was kidnapped, imprisoned by a vampire noble who performed a penectomy, castrated him, castrated her, and turned Ellie into a vampire. After Ellie escaped, she chose to adopt a female appearance. Yeah, it's it's not quite trans representation exactly, but it's kind of still, at least in this movie version, is more meant to be ambiguous, because the movie doesn't go into this. The movie doesn't go into this lore and doesn't tell us the backstory and all. So from the only things we see is like apparently that Ellie has the scars. Again, not going to confirm that by going back and watching that because that's still fucking weird. But also that she said she's not a girl, but she still like presents and, from what we can tell, identifies as a girl. And I feel like there's a couple ways to view this. You could definitely view certain aspects of this film in the light of transgender people and how that is how certain struggles in this can like almost kind of like connect with being trans as someone who's a trans woman myself and all. I can definitely see stuff there. You could also view it as like Ellie, by the line saying I'm not a girl, does see herself, and I'm going to use she, her pronouns still, by the way, but that Ellie does see herself as male, and that, like, she is maybe self conscious about that or whatnot, and Oscar, like, loving her anyways is like, you could maybe call this gay. Um, or you could just see it as gender ambiguous. Because again, the movie is different from the book. The book is very explicit about this, and it's very explicit that Ellie is male rather than identifying as female. And apparently, in the remake, this entire thing was completely done away with. That was just not a factor in there, and the girl who was renamed Abby, by the way, for the remake, from what I read, was just a girl. It never even brought up this gender identity idea. Which, considering when this movie came out, 2010, for the remake, yeah, that kind of makes sense. It's like, it still maybe wasn't the best time for things, especially with, like, this kind of ambiguity to feature this kind of thing there for an American version of it. Um, but this movie was definitely very ambiguous, and I think it can be interpreted different ways depending on the person, and I think that's fine. There's a lot of people who's like, no, you have to go by the intent, the writer's intent, the author's intent. It's like that's all that matters. It's like, no. Sometimes interpretation is valid, especially if something is purposefully vague. The book and the movie are two different things. You have to acknowledge that. They're not the same canon. The same goes with any kind of thing, any kind of book that's adapted into a movie. Willy Wonka, the book is exceptionally different from both versions of the movie that we've gotten, or actually all three if you count the Timothy Chalamet one. And there's various other examples you could give. But Willy Wonka, I don't know why, is just what came to mind. I don't know why. But Willy Wonka, I've read the book for Willy Wonka. It's really different. It's actually one of the big reasons Roald Dahl did not like the Gene Wilder movie. A lot of changes, a lot of differences. But it seems like that's the case again here too. The book, obviously being a book, goes into a lot more. And this being, even though this movie is pretty long, near 2 hours, just under 2 hours long, it's like, it's still a case of it's a movie. You can still only adapt so much. And they still put this in here, but it's more subtle, it's more ambiguous. So, in the terms of the book, it's very clear what the case is. But in terms of the movie, I feel like it's ambiguous enough, and I feel like it's almost purposefully ambiguous enough to where you can kind of interpret it in different ways. And it's okay. It's reasonable. The way I'm choosing to view it, probably just because of, personal experiences and all, is I see that despite what Ellie said, I think that felt like me, like it came, especially with the context now, feels like it came across as like being defensive and like trying to push away at Oscar. It kind of comes across as her like saying, but it's like, but I'm not really a girl, which is a thing that a lot of trans people go through, a big fear a lot of trans people go through. And because she was assigned male at birth, she doesn't see, and because of the castration and everything, she doesn't see herself as female. But she actively presents herself as female. She likes to wear dresses and stuff. Like, in every way, she presents herself and depicts herself as being female. And it's very clear she likes that she to be seen that way. And it very much feels like her issue here is directly connected to herself, her feeling, her lack of feeling self-worthy. You know what I mean. Her feeling like she's not worthy. Let me see if I can make this a little brighter real quick. There we go. That's a little better. But she doesn't feel like she's worthy of being called a girl because she feels because she wasn't quote unquote born a girl, which again, not how that works, but yeah, that's again a very real feeling that trans people go through. I myself have very much gone through that a lot. Just feelings of inadequacy, comparative, and everything. And even kind of like aspects of being seen as like a monster and being seen as like other than everyone else around you. It's like these are very common feelings that trans people go through, and I can definitely see a lot of connection in how this is portrayed in this film. And again, from the film's perspective, it seems like it's purposefully made vague so that you can kind of interpret it in your way. And so I'm choosing to interpret it as she identifies as female. She doesn't think she's always worthy of such, and when Oscar is falling in love with her, she doesn't feel like he should be, because she feels like she's not a real girl and she should fall in love with someone who is. Which I like it how he basically responded with an like, I don't care, I love you anyway kind of response to that back in that scene. Although again, he probably was just also confused at like her saying I'm not a girl and like what she meant by that. But yeah, it's like that's how I'm choosing to interpret it. I see her as trans based on the information given in the movie with what we have gotten and just kind of allegories and how it's presented and how she presents. Because we as viewers are definitely supposed to see her as a girl. Like, that's just unquestionable. So yeah, that's how I'm choosing to view it. And I'm going with this huge ramble and everything about all of this at the beginning here. Near 20 minutes, like almost 17 minutes now, according to the recording timer, with just these beginning thoughts on just the is she trans or not question and everything. I haven't even talked about like anything else from the movie or what I thought about the movie or anything. But I'm going on about this aspect of it because it actually affects my view of the film. A lot of the movie is kind of shed in a different light, and certain aspects of it, once I knew that this is what was happening there, are recontextualized for me. So it comes across in a different way than it did before. Prior to finding this out, again, I thought that scene was weird and kind of unnecessary, and because I didn't know what was going on, I didn't understand the context. But I would still say that I loved this movie. Because, like, although this movie is exceptionally sad on so many levels, it is also deeply investing, emotionally resonant. You just grow to care for the characters so deeply. It's well shot, well edited, well acted, well directed. It's a very well made movie, well written. Also, the pool shot when he's underwater and you see, like, specifically the shot where you see the legs kicking and flying back across the pool. That shot was phenomenal. Like that shot could have won awards on its own merit. Just that shot alone was so damn good. And then the head falling into the pool, and followed by the arm of Connie's brother. Also, by the way, apparently the one who had gone to sit on the bench, the one who was very much the least comfortable with it all, was like actually survived at the end. Like was actually still like sitting there sobbing. I didn't realize that. I thought they were all dead. So she didn't kill the one who was the least culpable, the least guilty, I guess. Everyone else was fucking dead though. So yeah. But like I said, this movie is exceptionally sad. It's not a scary movie at all. Like nothing about it is even slightly frightening. But it gets you so invested and drawn in that it's just like you just love it. But then you add in the gender ambiguity aspect, and even no matter what interpretation you take on that, that adds in such a massive, like, additional positive to this that it elevates this movie farther than even I would have expected. Because it adds just this massive new layer that, again, recontextualizes pretty much everything about her character. The struggles she's going through, the pains, like her fear of this relationship. She was afraid to get into this relationship with him. Like, absolutely terrified to, and that was very clear. She was avoiding it at all possible instances, but she also consistently sought it out because she wanted it. Because she's never had a loving relationship where someone actually cared about her. Again, she was abducted as a literal child. She was castrated, forcefully turned into a vampire, and basically kept as a slave until she escaped. Like, even though that context is not in this movie at all, it's like knowing that it is technically the backstory still. It, like, everything that she does in this is very much, like, explained by that. And even if you ignore that part, even if you ignore the, like, the depth of the backstory because of it not technically being in the movie, and you want to count the movie and the book as separate canons, even if you ignore that, like, you still have the aspect of, like, okay, she has castration scars. You can clearly figure out what happened from that. And you can still get a good gist of the backstory, maybe just not with every detail. And it still explains everything, why she was so hesitant and resistant to him liking her, but also why she sought it out. And just so much of it is amplified by this revelation. This is a fantastic film, with or without knowing that context. But it's better when you know the context, which, a lot of times that's the case. Um, I really loved this. And it's definitely, like, I'm very thankful that I love this after last week's debacle. Like, honestly, I still say House is probably the worst movie I've seen. at least one of them. It's just that bad. Even a week later, like having had time to think about it, it's that bad. It's not good. It's a really bad film. This, on the other hand, this lived up to the hype. Honestly, in a lot of ways, exceeded my expectations. I was super invested. I cared about what was going on. I was enthralled. Like, and again, even when I brought up the time in the reaction, like saying like, "Oh, how much is left in this?" I thought it was like not that long. That was more of a case of like I'm surprised it wasn't over yet because I genuinely thought it was like an hour and a half. Uh, and so it's like I thought it was already going to be over at that point. Looking at my recording timer, I wasn't by any means trying to say I think it should be over because honestly, this could have gone on longer and I would have been invested still. Um, yeah, the ending is the one thing I didn't like find info on because once I found the info on the castration scars and everything, I kind of got distracted by that. But like the ending where they're on the train, she's in like the coffin, and they're like sending their secret messages to each other. I found out that I guess that message is love. That's what they were saying at the end. Um, which again, it's very clear there is love there. So no matter how you view it, it's either gay or trans. Either way, there's a relationship, and it's queer either way. Um, but yeah, I'm just questioning that because it's like, did they just like sneak off and run away together? What about his mother and everything, or his father? Do they not know where he went? Did he just disappear from their perspective after the entire incident at the pool? I don't know. But honestly, it doesn't take away any of my enjoyment to this. This was great. I'd love to hear your thoughts though. Tell me in the comments below, what did you think of Let the Right One In? Again, I think this is the first Swedish film I've seen, though I might be wrong. It's possible. It's the first one I think I know is Swedish at least. Unless I'm forgetting something. But next week's Halloween special reaction, we will be going to Korea for Monstrum. Um, the title interests me quite a bit because it's very monster, you know. So are we gonna get like more of a monster movie this time? Not like vampire monster, but like monster monster? That could be interesting. I know nothing else. I know nothing about it. I just know the title and that it's from South Korea. No spoilers, obviously, if you do know anything about it. But yeah, like I said, let me know your thoughts on this movie. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. Happy Halloween. See you all next time.